Hey guys, what is up? My name is Zoe and I'm the discipleship coordinator here at the Family Church, and I'm super stoked that I get to share this small nugget with you guys today. I think it's no surprise that 2020 has definitely been a year unlike any other year. It's not something we planned for, not something we're prepared for. If you said you planned for this, you're definitely lying to us. You were not prepared, okay? I think my favorite thing right now are those 2020 memes where it shows like, oh, my plans for 2020 versus reality. It's like so funny. I'm gonna put some of my favorite ones up here for you guys to see so y'all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, those memes definitely relatable. I think it's really easy to get caught in this idea that 2020 is just no longer good, that this pandemic kind of just ruined our year. We want to fast forward, we want to look ahead to what 2021 has in store for us. But I feel like can be a very dangerous place to stay in. If we're not careful, we can lose sight of what God is asking us to do right now. And I don't want that to happen for me, I don't want that to happen for you. And I want to talk about an individual who I feel like if he was in this pandemic, he would know how to make the most use of his time. And his name is Paul. Now, just in case if you don't know who Paul is, let me give you a little background information about him. So Paul actually used to persecute Christians, which is a fancy word for saying that he basically used to kill Christians. But he had an encounter with God, and ever since he had an encounter in God, he was one of those guys that he just went all in for Christ, which is so awesome. He actually started doing missionary work. He went to different cities, different countries, different churches, just proclaiming the good news about Christ, helping people get saved, and it's so awesome. But during his missionary time, he did get arrested, which is a bummer. When you think about it, it's like, man, this guy was doing good and he got arrested for doing something that was good. So I don't know about y'all, but for me, if I got arrested, I probably would have a grumpy attitude, right? I'd probably have zero motivation to want to do anything in prison. And I'd probably just wait in prison and be like, okay, like I'm just gonna sit here until my time in prison is done. But that's actually the opposite thing that Paul did. So while Paul was in prison, he actually wrote different letters to different churches, and one of them being the church of Philippi. So we can find this letter in Philippians 3, verses 12 to 14. It reads, I don't mean to say that I've already achieved these things or that I've already reached perfection, but I press on to possess that perfection for which Christ Jesus first possessed me. No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God through Christ Jesus is calling us. And that's something that I really want to focus on with you guys, is where he says that he is looking ahead and he is pressing on. We have the choice to press on, or we have the choice to passively sit around. Which one are you going to choose? I want to share with y'all what Paul did during his time in prison, because he made the choice to press on. During prison, he actually, like I said before, he wrote some letters to some churches. He actually wrote 4 different letters. All right, he wrote to the church of Ephesians, he wrote to the church of Philippians, he wrote to the church of Colossians, and he wrote a letter to a man named Philemon. And because of this, that makes up a good chunk of the New Testament today. So because he chose to press on and he chose to be obedient to what God was asking of him, we now in present day time get to reap the benefit of that. We get to grow from his letters, we get to learn from his letter and grow in our relationship with God, because he chose to press on and he chose to be obedient to whatever God was asking of him. And also during his time in jail, he actually was able to minister to other people, because other people in jail saw that he was a believer. They saw that he had joy. They saw his relationship with God. He could have chose to just sit around, and if he sat around, he wouldn't have ministered to people the same way. They wouldn't have seen the awesome things that God was doing in his life. And so what I'm saying is, let's be like Paul. Let's choose to press forward. Let's choose to activate those things that God is calling us to do, those things that God has placed on our hearts. So here are a few pointers that you can do to learn how to press on and to move ahead to what God is asking of you. So point number 1, ask God what it is that he is asking of you to do right now in this moment with the time that is given to you. We don't have to make this a huge complicated thing. He's not asking you to build a church or anything like that, but get to know God, get to know what he wants you to do, learn his heart for you. We can learn what he wants us to do by spending time in his word, by spending time in his presence, by talking to him. When we do that, he's going to place certain things on our hearts, and he's going to ask of things for you to do during this time. And maybe right now during this time, it's just a time for you to grow closer in your relationship with God. Maybe this is a time that he just wants for you to get to know him better and to grow closer to him. Now, point number 2 would be to write it down. All right, so whatever plans that God has put on your heart, or maybe goals that you have for yourself, maybe you want to read the Bible more, maybe you do want to spend more time in God's presence, write those things down. I don't have the facts in front of me, but I know that it's like scientifically proven that when you write things down that you're more likely to do them. So let's do that. Let's write them down. Put the date of when God spoke to you, and then you can look back on it and be like, oh wow, I remember when God told me that. And then you're able to say like, yes, like I have worked on that. I have gotten better in that. Or maybe it's a time for you to reflect and be like, oh, I haven't really been working on that like I thought I was. And our last point number 3, is to actually act on it. Having those plans, writing them down, it's awesome. But we have to do more than just do that and have it be a thought, but let's actually work towards those plans, right? So if it is something that you want to read more, make a plan for every day to read for 30 minutes, to read for an hour, to read for 10 minutes, wherever you're starting at, right? Set yourself a plan to actually meet those goals and to meet those things that God is putting on your heart. If you need to tell a family member, if you need to tell a friend, that's okay, do that too, and they can hold you accountable. All right, so point number 1, ask God. Point number 2, write it down. And point number 3 is actually act on it. In wrapping all this up, let's say that we're going to choose to be like Paul, that we're going to choose to look ahead and we're going to choose to press on to the things that God has called us to do and to fulfill the plans that God has placed on our lives right now. During this time, let's learn to make the most out of this time and not let it go to waste. Let's be able to be in 2021 and look back to this year and be able to say, you know what, yeah, like I was obedient to God and I did exactly what he wanted me to do. I made the most of my time, most use of my time during this time. So I love you guys. I pray that this message spoke to you. I pray that it sparked something in you too, that maybe there something God had placed on your heart and you hadn't acted on. I hope and I pray that this kind of ignited that and you guys are able to start acting on that and start just fulfilling whatever it is and being obedient to whatever God is asking of you right now in this moment. Love y'all, and let's make 2020 a great year despite what's happening. See ya.